Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Sakol again. I'm back again with this topic, which is post-conflict and constitutional making process in South Sudan. This books was really launched on a Friday, and the launching of these books was really good enough, and I attend the launching program. So I had the privilege of attending this important book launching at the University of Juba. And these things was really focusing on post-conflict constitution making and governance in South Sudan. And the event brought together scholars, legal experts, policymakers, and intellectuals who discussed some of the deepest challenge facing our country today. One of the most strong messages from the discussion is that constitution is not just a legal document, okay, written by lawyers or politicians. Our constitutions is the foundations upon which nations builds its identity, governance systems, fees, and all the things that we see, justice, access to justice, and unity. Many South Sudanese often hear the word constitutions without fully understanding why it matters in everyday life. It's not only for lawyers, it's not only for legal advisors and all this, but constitution is for every person, and it is matter for us as a citizens of South Sudan to know our constitutions. And these books was really good enough. And if you have some copy, I believe that you will even go through and find out how best is the book is. And when you read the book, you will understand that constitution in South Sudan is really in process, and it is necessary for people of South Sudan to exercise this process and make the constitution come into realities. And I believe that we have the act, we have also a lot of laws in South Sudan, and all these laws they were passed by the parliaments, and of course there was no consultations that was made in order for people of South Sudan to choose over which constitution should rule them. And in reality, the constitution determines how power is shared, okay, how leaders are chosen, and how resources are managed, okay, and how citizens also are protected in circumstances, and how conflicts are resolved. So it defined relationship between the governments and its and the peoples, like South Sudanese. And I think that without the strong and respected constitutions, a country can easily fall into a confusions and abuse of power, corruptions, injustice, and political instability. And all these things result from lack of constitutions, lack of good constitution. For a country like South Sudan, I've really learned a lot from the presenters and also the editors and as well as contributors. They've really talked well and they've really presented material that can also provide a meaningful way to South Sudanese people in order to cope up with these constitutions. And for a country like South Sudan today that experienced years of conflicts, okay, displacement, mistrust, and political division, so the constitution became even more important because it can help to create a common national vision. Okay, it is very important. Our country is made up of many communities today, a culture, language, and identities. So constitution making bring all this group together under one national framework where every citizens feel represented. And I think these presentations will always come into reality if we make these constitutions applicable. And sometime these constitutions will also give us a framework where every citizen feel represented, protected, and respected, regardless of tribe, region, or political affiliations. All right, and I think when people feel excluded in constitutions, when they feel excluded in constitutions, sometimes a lot of things arise. Let me tell you, a lot of things arise when people feels excluded in constitutions. So we may see that from let's say they are excluded from governance or ignored in national decisions making. Tensions and conflict become invariable because of this. And that's why an inclusive constitution making process is critical for long-term peace and stability. And that one of the important issue discussed during the launch was that constitution making should not be elite driven exercise carried out only in office or hotel by politician and experts, let's say lawyers, and I mean politicians. So a constitution should be public. It must involve ordinary citizens, and that's why when we have that constitutions, youth, women's, elders, civil society, traditional leaders, intellectuals, and communities from all parts of the country. The constitution belongs to the peoples, of course, yes, not to politicians. If citizens are excluded from the process, they may not trust or respect the final document, and that's why we need this constitution to be inclusive. Legitimacy come when people participate and feel ownership over the process. The discussions also, I think it has highlighted how many South Sudanese its current challenge are connected to unresolved constitutional questions. Issues suggest federalisms, which Dr. Dio talked about, land ownership, which also my brother Nial Tit Mamir talked about. He talked about lands, and also Medina Fash talk about land, citizenship, distribution of power, okay, uh, judicial independence, representation of women's, to which our sister also represented, and minority rights. That is ethnic politics. Dr. Yaj also talked about that, ethnic politics, and all these things. I think they were arise when when the presenters also talk about the issues that we see, and without clear constitutions arrangement, I think political disagreements can easily turn into violence because different groups interpret power and right differently. And another important lesson from the event is that constitution alone cannot solve all the problem unless there are strong institutions to implement it fairly. And that was good indeed. Yeah, we might be having a paper right here. But if there are no implementers, the law will not move forward because of there are no implementers. Good constitutions must be supported by an independent judiciary, accountable leadership, transparent institutions, civic education, and political willingness to respect the rule of law. And even the best written constitutions can fail if leaders ignore it or manipulate it for political interests. Uh, Respect for constitutionalism is where transform constitutions from a paper. I think this is the best part of the presentations on Friday, and from the document into a living national governance. Then we can see that I've really seen that the launch of that book also remind many of us, the attendees, and also the people of South Sudan. It reminds us that nation building is not only about roads, buildings, or economic development. It's it's also about building trust between the citizens of this country. Okay, and if we build this bridge, if we build the trust between the peoples, among the people of South Sudan, I believe that we made something. It's about creating sense of belonging where every South Sudanese feel equally valued in the country. A constitution will play a central role in building that trust because it sets the rules, and those rules are crucial for people of South Sudan to govern political behavior and protect citizens from arbitrary power abuse and all this. And as a South Sudanese, as South Sudanese continues a journey toward unified and permanent peace and democratic governance, constitutional dialogue must continue beyond universities and conference. Citizens at grassroots levels need civic education to understand the rights, responsibilities, and the meaning of constitutional governance. People cannot depend or participate in a system they don't understand. So public awareness and participations are therefore essential for building constitutional that reflect aspiration for for all South Sudanese people. The book's launch at the University of Juba was simply an academic. It's not something that we can just take it as a simple thing. Even for myself, I've taken it as academic book, as an academic event. It was a reminder indeed, yeah, it was a reminder to some of the people that ideas matter in shaping the future of the nation. The discussions emphasize that sustainable peace in South Sudan will not come. Okay? That sustainable peace will not just come through political agreements among the elites, but through inclusive governance, justice, participations, and constitutional legitimacy. Constitution is important because it's the backbone of the state, the protector of the citizens' right, and the foundation for national unity and peaceful coexistence. In all these things, we talk about a lot of things, and I think the book names post-conflict, yeah, post-conflict constitution making dilemmas and options for South Sudan. And the presenters, the books has 12 chapters, and those 12 chapters, we have two editors, and that is Dr. Joseph Gengakech. He was one of the editor, okay, and Professor Charles Manga Fombat. He is also one of the editor. Is a South African, and he has really the him and Dr. Gang, they have really made a nice thing to edit the book, and the book was really very nice. The book has almost 7 to 9 contributors, and Dr. Dio was having a chapter, and I think uh, that chapter was really good, and he was discussing about Dr. Dio was discussing about exploring a post-conflict governance option for South Sudanese permanent constitution making process. So I think Dr. Dio was really exploring this based on his experience in field of conflicts and resolution. So it was talking about those uh, uh, those conflicts that we have been saying, and how can we explore them so that to aim an independent constitutional making and exploring post-conflict governance option for South Sudanese, that will also generate for us a permanent constitutions. And I believe if we don't make a permanent constitution making process, so a lot of things are going to happen, and we may not have a right. Citizens cannot be having a right to express what they want to say, and the reasons will be really easy for us that we cannot express what we know because it is not in a law and is not in a constitution. Constitution is a right of every person, and that's why I've taken my time to attend it, because it is very important as a citizen of this country. And I'm also a scholar. I have to attend this and find out um, what the contributions of this launching of the books will do to South Sudan. And I found that it was really crucial and it was really nice. And all the ideas, I really welcome them. And Dr. D will talk about federalism as an options for permanent constitution making process in South Sudan. And I believe in 2018, when South Sudan proposed national dialogue, the national dialogue was made, and there were a lot of recommendation came out from national dialogue. Those recommendations that came from national dialogue, I think South Sudan government did not implement them, and with the reasons maybe from them. And the national dialogue process has recommend that South Sudan should be governed using federalisms, and to which many people react online. I saw that in 2018. I was even here in Juba, and I have seen that most of the people they don't need federalisms to be in South Sudan. They need they don't need federalisms like what Ethiopia is doing, and we can see it from Ethiopia. And I've also had a question from a lady on Friday. Lady said we are seeing federalism is failing. Like now, it is failing in Ethiopia. We have Tigray regimes. They are now attacking the Ethiopian armed forces and all this. So is this not a kind of of armed conflicts that is generated by federalism's governance. So I think Dr. Dio talked about this, and he, he responded accordingly to what she said. And I think he respond like it's not a failing of federalisms, but it's a failing of the executive to implement what the federalisms need. I think Abiy Ahmed as a president, he might be having issues that he has not, that he didn't put into place, and this may also lead to confrontation. And when we talk about federalisms, it means it is a decentralized government. So we don't have a centralized government like what we have in South Sudan. And in South Sudan, we have a situation president can even remove the county commissioner. And you see, this is the local governments, and the president is also have an upper hands on that. So this is a centralized government system. But in federal system, we don't have that. So this is one of the things that we also need to learn and also see. And this is what Dr. Dio talked about. And it was really a nice presentation from him. I like that. I also asked a question, that why is government of South Sudan not implementing this? But Dr. Dio was really saying this is not the problems of government of South Sudan not doing it, but this is a problems of people of South Sudan, because they don't want to choose what type of governance system do they need. And I believe that the type of government system that we need should be unique to what most of the people talk about. This was from Dr. Dio, and again, another person was, I think it was Hadi, was Hadi Strawman. They had Hadi Strawman is a he's from Egypt. I mean, he's from Europe. He's an European, and what he was saying. I mean, what he was presenting was yes, was constitution making in South Sudan issues of self determination. So this is what he was discussing. The Dr. Hadi Seleman. He's a PhD in Europe. It was presenting this, and I have taken one thing from him. So because we have self determination based on the state, self determination based on the territories, and I think the self determination he was talking about, it was a governance systems whereby local government should have the powers according to its own territories. And okay, he's also encouraging this governance system of decentralization. This is what he was talking about. And we also have Abraham Kwal Nyuan. He's one of the contributor. Talk about politics of constitution making and analysis of political parties and growth in post-conflict South Sudan. So Dr. Abraham was really curious about this, and I asked him one thing about I asked him one thing only about political parties having interest in making constitutions, in making constitution that is best for them, but is not best for South Sudanese. So what does this shows? And if we have a political parties in South Sudan, we have many parties in South Sudan, SPLM, SPLM-IO, and all these things. All of them are contributing into South Sudan. They're contributing to South Sudan, and what they are doing is only for South Sudanese. And I asked a question to Abraham Kwal. My question was centering on those political parties. And I said, if political parties uh, if political parties fail to do the interests of people of South Sudan in a process of constitutional making, so what should be done? What should be done indeed for people of South Sudan to be represented in constitution? So, and I think he answered these questions, and he said He said that the political parties should also be serious when they are dealing with this, and the constitutional making should be unified factor to people of South Sudan. So it should be transparent. So lazima يودوا will lazima يودوا توريد أي زول يكون عنده صوت. They can talk, they can say anything that they want. And I believe that if we do this, it will be nice for all of us. We should be represented. Okay, we should be represented because constitution is for South Sudanese. Uh, it's not for politicians or political parties, but it is for people of South Sudan to choose what type of law that is good to govern them. And another contributor was Margaret Matthew Mathiang. She was representing women in governance, examining the constitutional inadequacy of the 35% women is quota in government of South Sudan, and I think she really faced many challenge from the audience because they also raised many concerns. They raised many questions to her so that she can answer the 35% quota in government of South Sudan. And I think government of South Sudan has implemented some of the privilege to women's representation in governance system. And we have been having women's in vice presidents portfolio. I mean, we have seen women's also contributing in women also contributing in national legislative assembly. We've seen them in state council of council of state councils. Let me say, we are seeing them also in ministerial position, in commission. We have been seeing in many places directors and all this. So this has shown that women is represented 100%, and she made a fool whereby she really have a records for those things. And I believe that we've seen what she was saying, and in some part, woman is represented 100%. Let me say, because the 35% was really granted by the government of South Sudan under the president Salva Kiir Mayardit. I think these things was really made well. And in that situation, we briefly went to lunch, and we went for a short break to take lunch, of course, yes. And after we came back, we came back and start with Dr. Yaj James. He's one of the scholar, and he's also working with the United Nations mission in South Sudan. And I think Yaj is an adjunct assistant professor in professor of politics, security, and strategic studies at the University of Juba. Is a research focus on security and strategies and strategic studies, democracy and human rights, constitution making, and ethnicity. He worked for United Nations mission in South Sudan as its political affairs. James Hall, Doctor of Philosophy, PhD in Political Science from University of Juba, South Sudan. So he was really presenting about about ethnic politics in constitution making, safeguarding for protecting minorities, and I think it is really good enough. I think we talked about minorities earlier, and he was the one who raised this question of that the minorities also should be consulted. We have many tribes, 64 tribes in South Sudan, and I think in our first episode we talk about minorities being not involved in cultural festival, and that is one of the issue. We need also government of South Sudan to initiate all this process to let South Sudan have this inclusive constitution making process to include all the minorities to come and have a voice on that. And I think this is where Dr. Yach was really centering on, and that the minorities also should be safeguarded for protecting them their rights, because they need also to have a voice in constitution making process. and I think he really presented well, and there was no problem also from the audience, and what he was saying was really true, and people also appreciate him for raising up this concern. And I think if government of South Sudan put these things into consideration and study them, I believe that we are going to have a good constitutions and a constitution that will also govern people of South Sudan in a way that we need. We have also a brief presentation from Gabriel Meding Apache, and Meding has really presented well about the land, and he also brought some of the cases that have been that have been cancelled by the High Court in South Sudan, by the Supreme Court in South Sudan, the case of the land and the case of illegal lands, because South Sudan has no land laws. Let me say there was a law, has an act. It was SPLM visions, and that law is still there right now, and it's one of the law that is now giving South Sudanese a headache. Let me say, because they don't know the rights about the land. And I think these people, they really talk well. Meding Apache, his name is Gabriel Meding. He's a practicing lawyer and principal partner at Kush Advocates. He holds Master of Law in International Trade and Investment Law in Africa, University of Pretoria, South Africa. Meding is a lecturer at the School of Law, University of Juba. He was presenting the constitutionality of South Sudanese land tenure system, making case for reform. And I think the reform he was talking about in the land process is that land should be regulated. So if you have a land, the land should be yours, and you can own the land if you have a right in South Sudan. And I think what he was discussing, he brought an example like how many meters will you own the land? And for example, you have a space. Land is land, but you have a space also in your lands. There is a space up here. Is the space yours or the space is not yours? I think some countries, they put this thing as a law. When there is something flying over your land, you can also ask the legality of that. And I think this is a kind of law that they want to discuss as the lawyers, to find out the issues. For example, how many meters, okay, how many feet or how many meters should I measure this from my area to the surface? So all these things, there are cases for that. And I think in South Sudan, we don't have that. We only focus on land issues. And he brought a case of Meding, somebody called Meding and Mayar, or what, maybe I've forgotten that. So he brought the case, and that case was presented in High Court in South Sudan. So the case was dismissed. There was nobody with the legality of the document. There's nobody having a document. This one is a general law in South Sudan. This case is there. You can go online and search for that. You will find this case. This case is there as well. I think Meding talk about land ownership and how can we own the land as a South Sudanese. Uh, how is your right if you are born in South Sudan, for example, as a foreigner? So do you have a right to own the land? And how about East Africa right? If I'm also a member of the East Africa and I bought a land in South Sudan, so do I have a right? For example, if I lost the membership of the alliance, let's say East Africa, if I lost the membership and I was having a land in South Sudan, is the land still mine or the land is not mine? I think all these things, these are the critical issues about the discussions, and it is a law that will also rectify all this. And I think the lawyers know how to talk about this. Yeah. Another one is Nyal Tid Mamir, and this guy, I really thank him for bringing some of the point about the land. Nyal Tid Mamir, right? I think he's also here. Let me try to see him. Yeah, Nyal Tid Mamir. He's an environmental specialist and public policy analyst with experience in natural resource governance, environmental compliance, climate change, adaptations, and mitigation, and sustainable energy He served as the director of the Environment and Natural Resource Programs at the Sud Institute before joining the United Nations mission in South Sudan as an expert advisor on environment. A whole Master of Science in Sustainable Energy Development from the University of Calgary in Alberta, Canada. Tit Mamir also served as an adjunct assistant professor at the University of Juba. So Tit Mamir raised up major concerns, and he was having a topic. Presenting this thing, chapter 9 in the book. So he was presenting, does the land belong to the communities? This is one of the things that he raised, a critical land tenure issues in post-conflict constitution making. And I think the government of South Sudan need to be critical on this. But we need to identify, does the land belong to governments or the land belong to communities? And there is a confusion here. There's a confusion, contested visions, and these visions, they're also very important. And I asked him the questions, which vision is the best for him? I thought he would have been given a time to answer what I asked, but there was no time. So Nial was having this. He was saying something. He was proposing some contested vision of land ownership in South Sudan. And one of it is government ownership. Let's say if government has owned the land, it promotes equal citizenship. Okay, if land belongs to the government, it may promote equal citizenship, but it risks abuse. Government will abuse it through elites. Now we have elites in our governments. We have those who are really very powerful in governments. They can also make it abused. So they may have many lands, and then and people will never have a land. I think this is one of the contested vision. And I want you also, if you are a lawyer, I need your questions. I need your illustration from this. I want you to write this one down and give me the answer. If you are watching me right now, I want you to give me the answer. These are the three contested visions of land ownership in South Sudan. One of it is a government ownership of the land. But if government is owning the land, it promotes equal citizenship. But sometimes it raises a serious concern. That is the risk abuse. There is going to be an abuse of the land. So the government, the elites, and those who are powerful in government will also own the land. That's one contested vision. The second contested vision is community ownership. And this is what we are fighting for right now. So community ownership, sometimes it protects heritage. Okay, we might be having heritage in our lands. Let's say here in Juba, we have these mountains and all this. All these things are community heritage, because in our community we don't have those things. We don't have mountains. We don't have rocks and all this. So what we have is a different case, something that you don't have in your community. So when community own the land, so it protect heritage, and that is important. But it risks exclusions and tribal citizenship. And that is what we are trying to see right here today in South Sudan. Last week, you have seen the demolition was carried out in Matangay, and this was because of the community ownership of the land, and that is exclusions of the peoples from the land, because the land was said to be for the communities, and if it is for communities, the community have the right to protect the land, and that is one of the contested visions that I want you to tell me as well. You write it in your Facebook, or you also send it to me on my messenger, so that I also understand what is the best contested visions, what is the best vision the government of South Sudan should adopt to regulate the land process. And the third one is people owning the lands. People owning the land. Government, if people's own the land, let's say you own the lands, I own the lands and all this, okay? Government regulates work only with a strong accountability. And it is currently absent in South Sudan. It's not there. But I believe that people own the lands. People own the land. This is the right way that they have to. This is the right visions the government of South Sudan should adopt. And government of South Sudan today is circling within these two. It's circling around the community ownership of the land, and it is also around itself with government ownership of the lands. These are the two vision that the government of South Sudan is running after. But that is not good enough. We should also dwell on people's lands. People owns the land. Like in Kenya, you can see people own the land, government own the land, but it is also the same visions being circulated. And I saw that from Madinga Patch in his presentations, also from Nyal Tidmame. They talk about this, about about the government in Kenya owning the lands, and peoples also own the lands. So the visions keep recycling, something that we don't see in South Sudan today. And you can see people hire with a lot of money here in South Sudan. The land, you can find the land is going up to $10,000, $500, all right, $10,000, $5,000, $1,000, depending on the renting that you want. Yani it is something very bad if you can see. فده طبعا كاب. يعني في جنوب السودان لازم الحكومه بتاع جنوب السودان يكون عنده قانون واحد بتاع الارض. يعني ممكن ده اجر you buy, I mean you rent according to the law. You also own the land according to the law. But we cannot recycle ourselves within these two contested visions. But I want you as students of law and has also a law abiding citizens, I want you also, if you have an opinion about that, you also need to tell me which the best, and what are not the best way the government can own, I mean, the best way a land can be owned in South Sudan. Is it through the governments? The elites will also take responsibility of that. They will be the one to have many lands. They're going to abuse it, and all this will happen. And if it is community, it will reach to exclusions, like what is happening in Matangay today, you can see. But if it is the people, it is absent in South Sudan. So how can we bring this onto the table? So I think these are the few things that I came here today to discuss, because they are really critical, and we should also learn our constitution. We also need to know our constitution, seeing this constitution is belong to all of us as a South Sudanese, and all the act and all the laws that are there in South Sudan constitutions making process should also be mindful to all South Sudanese that we need to own a law that will protect us, a law that will talk about us, a law that will also give us the power to do whatever that we want. And if we need a centralized government, we can choose for ourselves in a law. If we need a federalism, we can also choose in the law. And this is a popular demand from the people of South Sudan, that they need to have a unified constitution making process. And in these academic programs, they should also be encouraged for people to attend, and people also to listen, so that they learn on how constitution making process is very important to people of South Sudan, but not only for lawyers, but it is also important for every citizens. And if you are a South Sudanese, you need to know your law, and you need to know anything that you are doing. So thank you so much. This is a call podcast, The Voice of Innovation. I'll be here always to bring to you anything that you want, so that we discuss and we have a better discussions. And I think I want to know this, as I told you earlier, that these three contested vision, I want you to illustrate them and give me a point about that. So which one is the best contested vision?